Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I am a current dietetic intern and graduate student at USC at the Leonard Davis School of Gerontology. I will be presenting on fiber and the importance of fiber and what kind of foods have fiber in our diet for the USC Workwell Center, specifically the Eat Well community. The topics I will be covering are general fiber information and what fiber is, and the different types of foods that contain fiber. I'll also be talking about the benefits of fiber and how it affects blood sugar levels, how much daily fiber to consume, tips on how to add fiber into your diet, and the best approach in doing so individually. Just to begin and have a little bit more of a foundation as to what fiber is only found in plant foods and not in any animal foods. It is not digested in the GI tract or absorbed. And a good quote from the Mayo Clinic in 2022 that kind of breaks down more of what fiber is that dietary fiber includes the parts of plant foods your body can't digest or absorb. Unlike other food components such as fats, proteins, or carbohydrates, which your body breaks down and absorbs, fiber isn't digested by your body. Instead, it passes relatively intact through your stomach, small intestine, colon, and eventually out of your body, which also helps keep you somewhat regular. There are two types of fiber to be aware of: soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Most foods contain a combination of both soluble and insoluble fiber, and if you're eating a wide variety diet, you are most likely getting both of them. The difference between soluble and insoluble fiber is that soluble fiber dissolves in water, where it forms a gel-like material in order to slow digestion and keep you fuller for longer. The gel-like material is also beneficial because it helps lower cholesterol and helps with blood sugar control. Soluble fiber also feeds the good bacteria in your gut that supports digestion and overall good gut health. In comparison, insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water. However, it promotes movement of food through your GI tract and increases the bulk of your stool, which aids in digestion and staying regular with your bowel movements. Soluble fiber and insoluble fiber are overall found in different types of foods, and consumption of both daily can benefit your overall GI health and your digestion. Many different food groups contain fiber, and consumption of a wide variety in your diet, as I was saying before, can be helpful for your digestion and ultimately your GI health in the long term. Since fiber is in many different types of foods, including fruits, vegetables, grains, whole grain bread specifically, and all different kinds of beans, nuts, and seeds, it can be easier to find sources of fiber for those with different restrictions, preferences, or allergies. Diving into some of the different types of fiber, there are many different types of soluble and insoluble fiber-rich foods, giving individuals many options for their fiber sources. Oatmeal, beans, lentils, chia seeds, apples, blueberries, and nuts are all different examples and sources of soluble rich foods, good for lowering cholesterol and maintaining balancing your blood sugar. On the other hand, avocados, fruits, vegetable skins, brown rice, quinoa, leafy greens, potatoes, carrots, and cauliflower are insoluble rich fiber foods that are great for keeping you regular and fuller for longer. So again, in combination, getting both soluble and insoluble fiber, that is probably where you will reach your most optimal GI digestion and your overall digestive health. And most likely, when you are eating your meals and snacks, you're most likely getting sources of both of these. To transition into the benefits of fiber, there are many benefits that are generally overlooked and underrated, or maybe not known by our population, depending on many different factors or depending on a specific population. But fiber can help increase meal volume and make you feel fuller for longer, which I feel like is the more generally known benefit to fiber, is because of the volume of fiber, individuals usually stay fuller for longer in combination with other macronutrients and micronutrients. This can in turn help you maintain a healthy weight with different types of fiber and their roles. Fiber can help lower bad cholesterol levels, so your LDL levels, and can help keep control of your blood sugar. Fiber can keep you regular and prevent constipation, reducing inflammation, and in turn, reducing the risk of chronic diseases such as cardiovascular disease and diabetes, which we see a lot of in a clinical setting. This is an image that I think is very helpful for visualization of the large intestine. It shows you kind of where and how fiber moves throughout your GI tract, specifically your large intestine. So you can see in the image here that the ascending colon, the transverse colon, and the descending colon, and it eventually leads to the outside of your body. This is where fiber passes through and makes its way out through our digestive tract, and what ultimately keeps us regular. To add to that, fiber feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Plant fiber contains prebiotics that help bacteria in the gut flourish, where healthy bacteria will feed on the fiber that you eat and create a healthy gut environment. Fiber also keeps your gut lining intact, where microorganisms maintain its integrity, and the fiber stimulates mucus production, which is a protective lining for the gut. Fiber also helps to maintain a large, diverse range and colony of bacteria balancing gut microbiota. This is a graph of how consumption of fiber over time affects blood sugar. The green dotted lines represent a healthy blood sugar range where we want our blood sugar levels to be. The black line represents where the remaining blood sugar is from the previous meal that someone had ate. If you follow that line with the blood sugar response, line 3, the blue line, you can see that eating whole grains, vegetables, and legumes, all fiber-rich foods, stays way more consistent and constant and has no major spike or dip. This control of blood sugar is important because it helps you maintain energy levels and decreases risk of potential weight gain or risk of potential chronic diseases. If you see the blood sugar responses in lines 1 or 2, the red and yellow, that majorly spike and dip, those foods that individual ate causes major spikes and dips of blood sugar, which is not ideal because we want to stay within that healthy range where the green dotted lines are after eating whole grains, veggies, and legumes. A little bit more about fiber and blood sugar. When you consume a carbohydrate food containing fiber, it helps to stabilize blood sugar, just like that graph seen before when fiber-rich food is consumed. Blood sugar is more stable and spikes and dips are avoided when we stay within that normal blood sugar regulation level. This is when we are eating balanced meals and healthy meal compositions with protein, fiber, carbohydrates, fats, and vegetables. So, how much fiber should you consume on the daily, and how much is a healthy amount? According to the USDA, 25 grams of fiber a day for women and 38 grams of fiber for men is the recommendation for ages up to 50 years old. If over the age of 50, 21 grams of fiber a day for women and 30 grams of fiber a day for men is the usual recommendation. So you want to kind of aim for 6 to 8 grams of fiber per meal and 3 to 4 grams per snack throughout your day so that you are getting and reaching all of those recommendations and also spacing it out so you're not overwhelming your system with a lot of fiber, causing GI upset. Some ways to add more fiber is to include fiber in every meal and space out the portions and gradually throughout the day. Hydrating is another important thing to consider when it comes to adding fiber into your day of eating. The more fiber you eat, the more water you need to drink because the fiber absorbs water. So ultimately, drinking more water hydrates the fiber, which then propels the fiber and your stool out of your system and making it a lot easier of a process rather than being dehydrated, which would cause you to eventually be irregular and potentially constipated. An important tip to note on all of this is that increasing fiber should be very gradual just to avoid cramping, bloating, abdominal pain, and gas. You don't want to add anything too quickly as it can upset your stomach and cause some GI upset. So, to avoid any side effects of adding plenty of fiber into your diet, knowing to add fiber gradually will be really beneficial for you and your gut and your digestion. The top tips for adding more fiber is to snack on foods with higher fiber content, such as nuts, seeds, whole grains, crackers, veggies, or popcorn, which are some examples that I had mentioned previously, but a couple extra just to add more variety. There are so many great options, which is great for those who are picky eaters or have restrictions, allergies, or preferences. Adding fruit and veggies to your meals and snacks also help increase your fiber content and also help you stay hydrated as well. Trying to consume more whole grain products such as whole grain breads, pastas, crackers, oatmeal, brown rice, or quinoa is also a great substitute. Another great way to add in fiber, and is also great for those who are vegetarian or vegan or are trying to avoid meat for any reason, is substituting meats for beans and legumes at meals. This is a great way to make changes at restaurants or even eating at home that increase fiber and also increase your protein content, which will really help keep our blood sugar stable. Meaning our digestion would be good and our energy levels would also be good. And we would also be reaching more of our needs. Overall, something that we want to make note of and things to consider and keep in mind, as I had mentioned before, is to slowly increase fiber into your diet to avoid any sort of GI upset. Consciously choosing fiber-rich foods and incorporating them into both meals and your snacks and spacing out your fiber intake throughout the day is again very important. Consuming whole foods and trying to sneak in all of your fiber throughout the day is way better than reaching for a supplement initially. You want to have whole foods before you consider supplementation. And ways to do that are to make your own fiber-rich snacks. So you can make your own trail mix, which is kind of clever and kind of individual and personal. So you can add all different types of nuts, seeds, fruits, dried fruits, any sort of addition like that. And it's very portable, and you can bring this everywhere in your backpack, in your car, in your purse, in your carry-on luggage. You can always bring some sort of high fiber rich snack. You can also add chia seeds or flax seeds or any type of green into your smoothies or into your yogurt bowls, oatmeal bowls, at breakfast, lunch, dinner, or at any snack. This adds a really good texture and flavor, um, and micronutrient variety into your diet overall. There's always some space for some sort of fiber incorporation. So you could also make your own chickpeas, crispy chickpeas, and roast them and use different seasonings. This is also really fun because you can throw it into your trail mix. You can have it on its own, or you can substitute as croutons on any of your salads. A great way to find recipes for high fiber foods is to look up recipes on any social media platform or cooking channel or a recipe book. Another great place to look is the Eat Well YouTube or website. They have a lot of different platforms and people through their website and their YouTube that provide a lot of really great additional recipes and options for high fiber foods. Another example of a high fiber rich food would be veggie sticks and some sort of dip that you like. It's very easy, it's really quick. And also, you could use any high protein dip like hummus, so you get that sort of balance. Another great idea is to swap your pastas for lentils, chickpeas, or black beans, or also having fruit as your dessert. Again, adding fiber, prioritizing whole foods, and also keeping you hydrated. Just as an additional side of education, on the right side here, you can see a picture that shows a nutrition label, a nutrition fact label, where it shows how to find how much fiber is in your food. So there should be a section on your nutrition label that shows how many grams of fiber is in that specific item. It is in the highlighted yellow box on this slide where it says dietary fiber. And this specific food item has 9 grams of fiber per serving, which is really high. So again, aiming between that 6 to 8 grams, a little higher is okay, but staying within that range, 6 to 8 per meal, is ideal to be able to reach your fiber levels throughout the day. In conclusion, here's kind of everything we learned about fiber in a nutshell. Fiber is found in plant foods. It feeds the good bacteria in your gut. It lowers bad cholesterol and also stabilizes blood sugar. It reduces the risk for chronic diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Increasing your fiber intake into your meals and snacks is really important, and doing that gradually to making sure you have a high variety of fiber and also making sure you avoid GI upset. Um, and also having high fiber snacks and meals and creative recipes to make it more fun and less of a chore and less daunting. I hope you learned a little bit about fiber from me and enjoyed your time learning about all of the types of foods and snacks that you decide to incorporate into your diet and in any sort of your meal. I hope I provided some sort of insightful information and educated you at the very least in a simple way that makes learning about fiber and your diet very simple and more fun. Just to kind of conclude, Eat Well does have their own cookbook that does have a lot of high fiber rich recipes that you could reference and potentially make if you were interested. This cookbook is available in the middle of the year, in the middle of this year. They have really good recipes that contain high fiber, and I listed a few here because I feel like these have something for everyone. So I had picked broccoli salad, chickpea avocado salad, tofu and taro vegetable soup, Mediterranean pita salad, Carmen's kale salad, and red lentil vegetable coconut curry. These were the recipes that kind of stood out to me that had the highest amount of fiber, had a lot of variety, and there was kind of something for everyone here. But again, there is a whole cookbook of recipes and meals and snacks, as well as desserts that contain high fiber and can help you reach your fiber goals ultimately. Thank you so much for listening to me and for being a part of the Eat Well community and for Eat Well allowing me to present on this very important topic.